Antarctica wasn't always a frozen wasteland. 34 million years ago, it was part of a lush supercontinent called Gondwana, filled with forests and wildlife. Then the Antarctic circumpolar current formed, locking the continent in a deep freeze. But what if human civilizations witnessed this transformation? What if ancient stories from Inca, Polynesian, and Greek traditions preserved memories of a very different southern land? Long before any ship ever sailed southern waters, thinkers across civilizations already pictured a great southern land. The Greeks reasoned that a spherical Earth required balancing land masses, so they imagined a terra australis incognita, unknown southern territory. Medieval European mapmakers filled their charts with sea monsters and mythical kingdoms in these southern reaches. While Chinese records spoke of a distant southern continent they called Nanzhou. These weren't maps based on exploration, but exercises in theoretical geography and philosophical symmetry. What's remarkable is how consistently this idea appeared across cultures that had no contact with each other. Arab scholars drew southern continents on their world maps, and Polynesian navigation traditions spoke of vast lands beyond their island chains. This persistent vision of a southern counterweight suggests something deeper than coincidence at work. It points to a shared human intuition that something significant lay beyond the known world's southern edge. These theoretical maps became self-fulfilling prophecies that drove exploration for centuries. When European sailors began venturing further south, they carried charts showing lands that supposedly existed. Every explorer hoped to be the one to find the fabled southern continent and claim its imagined riches. The theoretical became the motivational, pushing ships into dangerous, uncharted waters. The accuracy of some early maps remains puzzling. Certain Renaissance charts show landmasses that correspond surprisingly well with Antarctica's actual coastline. These maps weren't based on satellite imagery or modern surveying techniques, yet they depict geographic features that wouldn't be officially discovered for hundreds of years. The precision raises questions about what knowledge might have been available to these cartographers that has since been lost to history. This collective imagining of a southern land created a foundation for discovery. When explorers finally reached Antarctica, they weren't finding something completely unexpected, they were confirming centuries of speculation. The reality of ice and rock fulfilled the ancient dreams of balance and completion that had occupied geographers for generations. The mythical had become real, yet the mystery only deepened. Now let us examine the most controversial piece of this cartographic puzzler map that seems to show Antarctica with impossible accuracy decades before its official discovery, raising questions about lost knowledge and forgotten explorations. In 1513, an Ottoman admiral named Piri Reis created a world map that continues to puzzle historians and cartographers, commissioned for the Ottoman Navy. This map showed coastlines and landmasses with a level of detail that seems impossible for its time. What makes this document extraordinary isn't just what it depicts, but when it was created centuries before the official discovery of Antarctica. The southern portion of the Piri Reis Map shows a landmass with features that some researchers argue correspond to Antarctica's subglacial topography. The map displays coastal outlines that appear to match modern seismic and satellite surveys of the continent beneath its ice sheet. These include what could be interpreted as mountain ranges, river valleys, and bays that align with known geological features currently buried under kilometers of ice. Piri Reis himself provided notes explaining his sources. He claimed to have compiled the map from 20 older charts, including Greek maps from the time of Alexander the Great, Arabic navigational charts, and possibly maps from Christopher Columbus' voyages. The admiral described using maps drawn in the days of Alexander that showed the inhabited world's entire scope. This acknowledgement suggests he was working with cartographic knowledge that predated his own era by centuries. Modern analysis reveals intriguing correspondences between the map's southern landmass and actual Antarctic features. Certain coastal indentations on the Piri Reis Map align with the subglacial topography of Queen Maudland. When accounting for the map's unique projection system, the map shows what appear to be ice-free coastal areas with rivers flowing toward the sea, features that would match Antarctica's geography during warmer climatic periods. Skeptics offer alternative explanations for these apparent correspondences. They suggest the southern landmass might represent the eastern coast of South America, distorted by the map's unusual projection system. The similarities to Antarctica could be coincidental, resulting from the mapmaker's attempt to fill empty spaces on his chart. The map's scale and orientation make definitive identification challenging, as medieval cartographers often worked with incomplete information and speculative geography. The map's projection system itself presents complications. Piri Reis used a circular map format centered on Cairo, employing a mixture of Portolan chart techniques and older projection methods. This unconventional approach distorts landmasses in ways that make direct comparisons with modern maps difficult. The southern continent appears stretched and rotated, following the map's decorative rather than strictly geographical priorities. What remains undeniable is that the Piri Reis Map shows knowledge of southern geography that exceeded what European explorers had documented by 1513. Portuguese and Spanish ships had only begun exploring South America's southern reaches, and no recorded expedition had ventured far enough south to map Antarctic features. The map's existence suggests that either ancient civilizations possessed advanced geographical knowledge, or that early modern explorers had made discoveries that went unrecorded in official histories. The controversy surrounding the Piri Reis Map ultimately centers on a fundamental question about historical knowledge. Either this map represents fragments of ancient cartography that preserved memories of Antarctica from a warmer climatic period, or it's an extraordinary coincidence of speculative geography matching reality. The map stands as a permanent question mark in the history of exploration, challenging our understanding of what ancient civilizations might have known about the world's southern extremes. This cartographic anomaly leads us to consider what other knowledge might have existed in no-lost ancient texts and maps, and how much of human exploration history might remain unrecorded or deliberately obscured. If the Piri Reis Map contains accurate information about Antarctica, the question becomes where this knowledge originated. The map's creator explicitly stated he compiled his work from older sources that no longer exist today. He referenced ancient Greek geographical texts and Arabic navigational charts that have been lost to history. This suggests a chain of cartographic knowledge extending back centuries before European exploration of the southern oceans. Several ancient seafaring cultures possessed the capability to venture further south than mainstream history acknowledges. The Phoenicians established trade routes spanning the Mediterranean and possibly beyond, with some evidence suggesting their ships might have reached the Atlantic coast of Africa. The Minoans of Crete maintained a sophisticated maritime network throughout the eastern Mediterranean. These civilizations had shipbuilding technology and navigational skills that could have allowed exploratory voyages into southern waters during periods when climate conditions were more favorable. An alternative possibility involves the preservation of knowledge from a time when Antarctica's coastal regions were more accessible. During warmer interglacial periods, portions of the continent's coastline might have been ice-free for extended durations. Indigenous cultures in South America and the Pacific Islands could have maintained oral traditions or crude maps describing sightings of distant southern lands. These accounts might have filtered through trade networks to eventually reach Mediterranean and Middle Eastern scholars. The destruction of ancient libraries and archives represents an irreplaceable loss of potential knowledge. The Library of Alexandria contained an estimated 500,000 scrolls, representing the collected knowledge of the ancient world. Its repeated destruction over centuries meant the loss of geographical works that might have described southern explorations. Similar fates befell other great repositories of knowledge in Constantinople, Baghdad, and elsewhere throughout history's various conflicts and disasters. These historical gaps create fertile ground for both academic debate and more speculative theories. Mainstream historians generally dismiss the idea of pre-modern Antarctic knowledge due to the lack of archaeological evidence and the extreme difficulties of southern navigation. Other researchers point to anomalous artifacts and linguistic connections that might suggest earlier contacts between hemispheres. The absence of definitive evidence allows multiple interpretations to coexist. The possibility of lost ancient exploration challenges conventional understanding of human migration and discovery. Official history credits specific explorers with discoveries that might have been known to earlier civilizations. Maritime technology often advanced further than written records indicate, and oral traditions could preserve geographical knowledge across generations without leaving physical evidence. The sea levels and coastlines have changed significantly over millennia, potentially concealing evidence of ancient port facilities or settlements. What emerges from this investigation is the recognition that history preserves only fragments of human experience. The written record represents a small fraction of what ancient peoples actually knew and accomplished. Cartographic knowledge in particular depended on vulnerable materials like parchment and papyrus that rarely survived centuries of use and storage. Each lost library or burned archive took with it pieces of the geographical puzzle that might have explained anomalies like the Piri Reis Map. This missing historical context leads us to examine what physical evidence might still exist on the Antarctic continent itself. The geological record provides concrete data about the continent's climate, history, and accessibility. Fossil evidence and ice core samples offer tangible proof of conditions that might have allowed human contact in ancient times. This scientific evidence forms the next piece of the puzzle in understanding Antarctica's hidden history. Science provides concrete evidence that Antarctica's current frozen state represents only the latest chapter in its long geological history. Ice core samples extracted from deep within the continental ice sheet reveal alternating layers that tell a story of dramatic climate shifts over millions of years. These cylindrical samples contain preserved air bubbles, volcanic ash deposits, and isotopic signatures that scientists use to reconstruct past atmospheric conditions. The evidence shows Antarctica was once a temperate continent with extensive forests and diverse wildlife. Fossil discoveries across the continent confirm this warmer past. Paleontologists have uncovered well-preserved remains of ancient rainforest trees, including southern beech and conifer species. The fossil record includes pollen samples from various flowering plants, insect impressions in sedimentary rock, and even the bones of prehistoric marsupials. These findings paint a picture of a green Antarctica that supported complex ecosystems, similar to those found in modern temperate regions. The continent's transformation from forest to ice represents one of Earth's most dramatic climate transitions. The cooling process occurred gradually over millions of years as continental drift isolated Antarctica. The separation from other landmasses allowed the Antarctic circumpolar current to form, creating a thermal barrier that prevented warmer waters from reaching the continent's shores. This oceanic current system effectively placed Antarctica in a deep freeze that has persisted for approximately 34 million years. Despite this long-term cooling trend, there were periods when coastal regions experienced temporary warming. Some researchers point to evidence suggesting brief warm intervals might have occurred within the time frame of human civilization. Sediment cores from the Ross Sea show periods of glacial retreat that could have exposed coastal areas, while mainstream science places the last significant ice-free conditions millions of years before humans evolved. Alternative theories suggest shorter warming periods might have made parts of the continent accessible. These theories remain controversial within the scientific community, but cannot be entirely dismissed. The geological evidence makes the possibility of ancient human contact with Antarctica less implausible than it might initially seem. If coastal areas experienced temporary ice retreat within the past few thousand years, maritime cultures with advanced sailing technology could potentially have reached these shores. The continent's continental shelves, now buried under ice and water, might have provided landing areas and even temporary habitats during warmer intervals. This geological context provides a foundation for considering whether human exploration might have occurred earlier than official records indicate. What emerges from the geological record is a dynamic picture of Antarctica as a continent that has undergone profound transformations. The ice sheet we see today represents only the current phase in an ongoing geological story. This understanding invites us to reconsider what might lie preserved beneath the ice, not only ancient ecosystems and climate data, but potentially evidence of human activity. If contact occurred during favorable climatic windows, the continent's geological history suggests that conditions might have occasionally been more hospitable than its current frozen state implies. This scientific evidence leads us to examine whether cultural traditions and historical accounts might contain echoes of actual contact with the southern continent. If geological conditions occasionally allowed access, could ancient seafarers have brought back knowledge of these lands? The intersection of geological possibility and historical mystery forms the next dimension of Antarctica's enduring appeal as a place where science and speculation converge. Ancient cultures around the world preserved stories of lands lying far to the south, beyond the known oceans. These traditions emerged independently across vast distances, suggesting something more than coincidence at work. The Inca spoke of Viracocha, a pale-skinned teacher who arrived from the southern sea bringing knowledge and civilization. Polynesian navigators handed down accounts of a great southern continent they called Kahiki, a place of origin and mystery that lay beyond their island chains. Australian Aboriginal traditions described a time when their ancestors could walk to southern lands now separated by ocean. The Tuelche people of Patagonia told Spanish explorers about a race of pale giants who came from the direction of the southern ice. These beings were said to possess advanced knowledge and unusual physical characteristics. Greek philosophers wrote of a southern land where divine beings dwelled and from which wisdom originated. These scattered references from unrelated cultures share common elements: pale visitors, advanced knowledge, and a southern origin point that matches the general direction of Antarctica. What makes these accounts compelling is their consistency across geographical and cultural boundaries. Cultures separated by oceans and millennia described similar concepts of a southern land with special significance. The Maori of New Zealand spoke of their ancestral homeland lying to the south, while certain Indian texts mentioned a southern continent where ancient sages preserved lost knowledge. These parallel traditions suggest either shared human imagination or possibly fragmented memories of actual geographical knowledge. The stories could represent cultural memories of encounters with southern explorers or migrants. If ancient seafaring cultures reached Antarctic regions during warmer climatic periods, their descriptions might have entered the oral traditions of coastal peoples. Alternatively, these accounts might describe encounters with unusual visitors from southern islands or coastlines that are now submerged or ice-covered. The physical descriptions of pale skin could indicate encounters with people from higher latitudes where lighter skin offered evolutionary advantages. Another possibility is that these stories are mythological constructions that coincidentally resemble reality. Human cultures often create symmetrical geographical concepts, imagining lands that balance known continents. The persistence of southern land myths might reflect psychological patterns rather than historical events. Many cultures develop stories about distant, perfect lands that served as spiritual homelands or places of origin. Despite these rational explanations, the consistency of these southern land traditions remains remarkable. The recurrence of specific details, pale visitors, advanced knowledge, and southern origins across unrelated cultures suggests something more than random mythological development. These stories persisted for centuries before European explorers confirmed the existence of Antarctica, indicating they weren't simply invented after the continent's discovery. The ancient stories created expectations that influenced early Antarctic exploration. When European ships began venturing south, their captains carried these legends in their cultural background. The search for the Great Southern Land became not just geographical exploration, but a quest for mythical places described in ancient texts and oral traditions. This mythological framework shaped how early explorers interpreted what they found in southern waters. What emerges from these cultural memories is a persistent human awareness of the South as a place of mystery and significance, whether based on actual contact or imaginative construction. These traditions demonstrate that Antarctica occupied human consciousness long before its official discovery. The continent represented not just empty space on maps, but a concept loaded with mythological meaning and possibility. These ancient narratives lead us to consider how 20th century thinkers might have reinterpreted these traditions through modern lenses. The idea of a southern civilization took on new forms in the age of exploration and scientific discovery, eventually evolving into theories that connected Antarctica with legendary lost continents. The mythological became the pseudoscientific, yet the core idea of a significant southern land persisted through cultural transformation. In the mid-20th century, a new theory emerged, connecting Antarctica to the legendary lost civilization of Atlantis. Geographer Charles Hapgood proposed that Earth's crust could undergo rapid displacement, shifting entire continents across the globe within relatively short geological timeframes. His theory suggested Antarctica might have once occupied a temperate latitude before moving to its current polar position, taking with it any potential civilization that might have existed there. Hapgood used ancient maps like the Piri Reis chart as evidence, interpreting their unusual features as depictions of Antarctica in its pre-glacial state. He argued these maps showed coastlines that matched the continent's subglacial topography, suggesting they were copied from much earlier sources created when the land was ice-free. This interpretation provided what he saw as cartographic proof that ancient civilizations possessed knowledge of Antarctica's true geography. The theory gained some attention when Albert Einstein expressed interest in Hapgood's work, noting in a foreword that the ideas deserved serious consideration. While Einstein didn't fully endorse the theory, his engagement provided a degree of credibility that attracted broader interest. Mainstream geology ultimately rejected the crustal displacement concept, favoring the established theory of plate tectonics with its slower, more gradual continental movement. Despite scientific rejection, the Atlantis connection captured public imagination and transformed how people viewed Antarctica. The continent became reimagined as a potential archaeological site rather than just a frozen wilderness. The idea of an advanced civilization suddenly frozen and preserved beneath the ice created a compelling narrative that resonated with popular interest in lost worlds and ancient mysteries. Hapgood's theory offered an explanation for various anomalies that puzzled researchers. It provided context for why ancient maps seemed to show knowledge of Antarctica, why multiple cultures told stories of southern lands, and how a civilization like Atlantis might have disappeared so completely. The rapid crustal shift theory purported to explain both the preservation and the sudden destruction of such a civilization. The Atlantis connection represents how Antarctica serves as a blank canvas for human imagination and speculation about lost knowledge. The continent's isolation and extreme environment make it the perfect setting for theories about advanced ancient civilizations that might have been erased from history. This narrative taps into deeper human concerns about the fragility of civilization and the possibility that entire chapters of human history might remain undiscovered. While scientifically unproven, the theory persists because it addresses genuine mysteries in satisfying ways. It connects disparate pieces of evidence, ancient maps, geological clues, cultural myths, into a coherent storyline. The idea that Antarctica might hold the remains of a lost civilization continues to inspire both serious researchers and speculative thinkers, demonstrating how the continent's mysteries transcend conventional scientific boundaries. This controversial hypothesis shows how Antarctica's unexplored nature invites both scientific inquiry and imaginative interpretation. The same features that make it valuable for climate research, its preservation of ancient conditions, also make it fertile ground for theories about preserved ancient civilizations. The continent's extreme environment means many areas remain unexplored, leaving room for speculation about what might lie beneath the ice. The Atlantis theory ultimately demonstrates how Antarctica serves as a mirror reflecting human curiosity about our past. Whether fact or fiction, these ideas about lost civilizations reveal our enduring fascination with the possibility that history might contain forgotten chapters waiting to be rediscovered. The theory represents one way humans have attempted to make sense of the continent's mysteries using the cultural frameworks available to them. This reimagining of Antarctica as a potential archaeological site leads us to examine how more recent expeditions approached the continent with their own agendas and theories. The same sense of mystery that inspired the Atlantis connection would later drive organized efforts to explore Antarctica with more sophisticated technology and specific objectives. In the years before World War II, Nazi Germany showed unusual interest in Antarctica that went beyond scientific curiosity. The 1938-39 New Schwabenland expedition represented a carefully planned military scientific operation with clear strategic objectives. Organized by the German Navy aboard the ship Schwabenland, this mission aimed to expand Germany's economic influence by searching for new whaling grounds, which provided vital oil resources at the time. The expedition aligned with Nazi Germany's broader expansionist policies already underway in Europe, raising concerns among other nations about German ambitions in the southern continent. The expedition team conducted extensive activities in the region they named Neuschwabenland. Using advanced aircraft for the era, they flew across the ice-covered landscape, taking thousands of aerial photographs that created detailed maps of previously uncharted territories. They dropped German flags to mark their territorial claims, establishing a physical presence that reflected Germany's desire to control Antarctic resources. The comprehensive mapping provided crucial data for potential future operations and resource extraction. Following World War II, The limited information available about the new Schwabenland expedition created fertile ground for speculation. Various theories emerged suggesting the Nazis had constructed secret underground bases beneath the Antarctic ice. Some accounts described massive bunkers, advanced weapons testing, and experimental aircraft development taking place in hidden facilities. These stories gained traction due to the Nazi regime's well-documented interest in mysticism and occult theories about ancient civilizations. One persistent theory proposes that the Nazis discovered something extraordinary in Antarctica, possibly ancient ruins or hidden knowledge that aligned with their ideological interests. Stories circulated about missing German officers escaping to southern territories after the war, suggesting the continent might have served as a refuge or secret stronghold. These narratives connected with broader Nazi interests in mythical concepts like Thule and Atlantis, making Antarctica a perfect setting for such speculation. Mainstream historians generally view the expedition as more symbolic than substantive, primarily serving propaganda purposes rather than establishing serious military infrastructure. They argue the mission aimed to secure Germany's place on the global stage through territorial claims rather than creating operational bases. The challenging Antarctic environment and limited resources available to Germany during this period make sustained military presence unlikely according to conventional historical analysis. The secrecy surrounding certain aspects of the mission continues to fuel speculation decades later. Restricted access to documents and the lack of comprehensive information about the expedition's full activities have maintained suspicion about its true nature. The subsequent American Operation Highjump, just years after World War II, further intensified questions about what the Nazis might have been searching for or what they left behind in Antarctica. The Nazi expedition represents how Antarctica became entangled with 20th century geopolitical ambitions and ideological interests. It demonstrates how the continent's isolation and mystery made it attractive for nations seeking to expand their influence and control resources. The expedition also shows how scientific exploration could serve multiple purposes, blending genuine research with strategic military and economic objectives during a period of global tension. This mysterious chapter in Antarctic exploration set the stage for even larger post-war operations that would further deepen the continent's association with Cold War intrigue and speculation about hidden activities beneath the ice. In 1946, the United States launched what remains the largest Antarctic expedition in history. Operation Highjump assembled a fleet of 13 ships carrying 23 aircraft and over 4,000 personnel under the command of Admiral Richard Byrd. This massive military operation arrived in Antarctic waters with stated objectives of training personnel in polar conditions, testing equipment in extreme cold, and conducting comprehensive mapping of the continent's terrain. The scale of this undertaking seemed disproportionate for these stated goals, particularly so soon after the Second World War, when resources remained strained. The operation's unusually brief duration became another point of speculation. Originally planned to last between 6 and 8 months, the entire mission concluded after just 8 weeks. Official explanations cited the onset of early winter weather and various logistical challenges that forced an early withdrawal. This abrupt ending raised questions about whether the mission encountered unexpected difficulties beyond the harsh Antarctic environment that prompted its sudden termination. Conspiracy theories emerged, suggesting the operation's true purpose involved locating and investigating rumored Nazi bases established during the pre-war German expedition. Some accounts claimed American forces encountered advanced aircraft or unusual aerial phenomena that overwhelmed their capabilities. These stories described a confrontation that forced the fleet's rapid departure, though no official records support such encounters. Admiral Byrd's own statements following the operation added fuel to these speculations. In interviews with South American newspapers, he reportedly made cryptic comments about the potential for attacks by aircraft capable of flying between poles at incredible speeds. While the exact context and authenticity of these statements remained debated, they contributed to the perception that Operation Highjump might have discovered something extraordinary in Antarctica. Historical analysis places the operation within the context of early Cold War strategy. The United States sought to establish its presence in Antarctica, as both superpowers recognized the continent's potential strategic importance. The development of transpolar flight routes made Antarctic bases valuable for monitoring aircraft and missile movements. The operation provided an opportunity to test military equipment in extreme conditions, while gathering intelligence about Soviet activities in the southern hemisphere. The mission's mapping activities took on added significance in this geopolitical context. Detailed charts of Antarctic coastlines and interior regions held both scientific and strategic value. Knowledge of ice conditions, weather patterns, and potential base locations became increasingly important as the Cold War expanded into previously ignored regions. The operation's aerial photography and survey work created foundational data for future Antarctic operations. Behind the official scientific mission, rumors persisted about hidden agendas. Some researchers suggested the Americans were searching for evidence of ancient civilizations or advanced technology supposedly left behind by previous inhabitants. Others believed the operation aimed to secure access to rumored mineral wealth or strategic resources that might give one nation an advantage in the emerging Cold War. The extensive no-fly zones established around certain areas of Antarctica during this period further fueled suspicion. While officially justified as environmental protection measures, these restrictions created opportunities for concealed activities away from public view. The overlapping interests of scientific research and national security created a complex web of motives that obscured the full truth about Antarctic operations. Operation Highjump represents Antarctica's transformation into a Cold War theater, where scientific exploration intertwined with military preparedness and intelligence gathering. The operation's scale, rapid conclusion, and subsequent speculation demonstrated how the continent had become another arena for superpower competition. This massive undertaking revealed how governments might use scientific missions as cover for other objectives, while controlling the information that reached the public. This episode leads us to consider how nations eventually formalized their Antarctic interests through international agreements that maintained an appearance of cooperation while preserving areas of secrecy and restricted access. In 1959, amid the height of the Cold War, nations reached a remarkable agreement that would govern Antarctica in unprecedented ways. The Antarctic Treaty created a unique international system that declared the continent a scientific preserve dedicated to peace and research. This landmark agreement brought together 12 nations, including the United States, Soviet Union, United Kingdom, and others who set aside their geopolitical differences to establish this unusual arrangement. The treaty explicitly prohibited military activity while allowing military support for scientific operations, creating a careful distinction that would have lasting implications. Beneath this surface of international cooperation lies a more complex reality of controlled access and information management. The treaty established numerous restricted zones where special permission is required for entry, and certain areas remain off-limits, even to experienced researchers. Satellite imagery of specific regions is routinely blurred or obscured, preventing public scrutiny of these locations. Scientific findings are often released selectively, with raw data from radar scans and deep core drilling frequently remaining unpublished and inaccessible. This careful curation of information creates a paradox where Antarctica is simultaneously the most scientifically studied and least publicly understood continent. The treaty effectively froze all territorial claims, while allowing nations to continue surveying and mapping with strategic purposes. Geological surveys conducted by both American and Soviet teams throughout the 1970s and 1980s systematically mapped resource potential under the guise of scientific research. These activities involved extensive deep drilling to collect sediment samples that could reveal mineral and energy resources. Yet the full results of these surveys were largely kept from public view. This suggests that while nations publicly committed to preserving Antarctica for science, they were simultaneously preparing for future resource competition. Commercial flight restrictions add another layer to this controlled access. Virtually no commercial flights cross Antarctica, with international routes typically avoiding direct overflights of the continent. While officially justified by aviation safety concerns involving extreme cold, lack of backup airports, and communication challenges, critics note that modern aviation technology could likely overcome these obstacles. The establishment of no-fly corridors and restricted airspace, officially described as environmental protection measures, further limits independent observation of Antarctic activities. This system of managed information creates fertile ground for speculation about what might be concealed beneath the continent's ice. The combination of restricted physical access, controlled data release, and limited aerial observation means that much of what happens in Antarctica remains known only to the scientific and military establishments of treaty nations. The very success of the treaty in maintaining peace and cooperation has paradoxically contributed to suspicions that something significant is being hidden from public view. The treaty framework represents a delicate balance between cooperation and competition, transparency and secrecy. Nations publicly commit to scientific openness, while privately gathering intelligence about resource potential and strategic advantages. Environmental protections serve both conservation purposes and the practical function of limiting access to areas of interest. This dual nature of the Antarctic treaty system ensures that while the continent remains dedicated to peace and science, it also maintains an aura of mystery and concealed activity that continues to fuel speculation and theories about what might truly lie hidden beneath its ice. Beneath kilometers of Antarctic ice, scientists have uncovered a hidden world that challenges everything we thought we knew about this frozen continent. Radar technology and deep drilling operations have revealed extensive subglacial lakes and massive river systems flowing silently beneath the ice sheet. These discoveries transform Antarctica from a static block of ice into a dynamic hydrological system with its own active water cycle. The continent conceals a complex network of liquid water environments that have existed in complete isolation for millions of years. Lake Vostok represents the most remarkable of these subglacial discoveries. Buried under 4,000 meters of ice, this freshwater lake spans an area 3 times larger than Lake Ontario. It has been completely sealed off from the atmosphere for at least 15 million years, creating conditions unlike anywhere else on Earth. When researchers finally reached its waters, they discovered bacterial life forms that appeared to be completely unknown to science. These microorganisms have adapted to survive in absolute darkness under extreme pressure, thriving in an environment rich with methane. These unique ecosystems offer scientists a natural laboratory for studying life in extreme conditions. The survival mechanisms developed by these organisms provide clues about how life might exist on other planets with similar icy environments. Jupiter's moon Europa and Saturn's moon Enceladus both feature subsurface oceans beneath their icy crusts, making Antarctica's hidden lakes crucial testing grounds for understanding potential extraterrestrial habitats. The discovery of life in such extreme conditions expands our understanding of where life can exist. Ice-penetrating radar has mapped hundreds of additional subglacial lakes, all interconnected by flowing rivers that stretch for hundreds of kilometers. These waterways transport minerals and microorganisms through the frozen underworld, creating a hidden biological network. The discovery of ancient river valleys and mountain ranges beneath the ice confirms Antarctica's warmer geological past, showing where water once flowed freely across landscapes, now buried deep beneath the ice sheet. Some researchers have reported unusual geological formations that appear remarkably regular in their structure. These formations have sparked debate about whether they might represent natural geological features or something more extraordinary. Mainstream science typically attributes these patterns to glacial movement and geological processes, though the unusual regularity of some formations continues to generate questions. The limited access to these deep subglacial environments means definitive answers remain elusive. These sealed environments function as natural time capsules, preserving climate data, biological samples, and geological information from millions of years ago. The ice itself contains trapped air bubbles that provide a detailed record of Earth's ancient atmosphere, offering insights into how our planet has responded to climate change throughout its history. This pristine preservation makes Antarctica an unparalleled archive of our planet's environmental history. The discovery of these subglacial systems has fundamentally changed how scientists view Antarctica's potential for harboring life. Rather than a lifeless frozen desert, the continent contains active biological communities that have evolved in complete isolation. These findings have raised new questions about what other forms of life might exist in these hidden environments and what they might reveal about life's adaptability under extreme conditions. The existence of these sealed underwater worlds has also inspired speculation about whether more complex life forms or even evidence of past human activity might be preserved beneath the ice. While mainstream science remains skeptical of such possibilities, The complete unexplored nature of these environments means many questions remain unanswered. The combination of restricted access and limited exploration means much of this subglacial world remains mysterious. What emerges from these discoveries is the realization that Antarctica continues to conceal secrets that challenge our understanding of life, climate, and Earth's history. The continent's ice sheet doesn't just cover land, it seals away entire ecosystems and geological records that could reshape scientific understanding. As technology improves and exploration continues, these hidden worlds may reveal even more surprising discoveries about our planet's past and the possibilities for life in extreme environments. As climate change accelerates, ice melt across Antarctica, landscapes are emerging that haven't been seen by human eyes for thousands of years. What was once a frozen archive is becoming a dynamic revelation. Retreating glaciers pull back like curtains, slowly opening, exposing hidden valleys, mountain ranges, and geological formations that spark both scientific curiosity and broader speculation. This transformation from static ice sheet to revealing landscape creates new opportunities for discovery. While raising questions about what else might emerge from the melting ice, scientists are uncovering remarkably well-preserved fossils that document Antarctica's warmer past. Exposed rock surfaces reveal impressions of ancient forests where southern beech trees once grew, their leaves and pollen perfectly preserved in sediment layers. Insect fossils show evidence of diverse ecosystems that thrived when the continent was part of the supercontinent Gondwana. These biological remains provide concrete evidence that Antarctica wasn't always the frozen desert we see today, but rather a region with a much different climate and environment. Unusual geological features are also appearing as the ice retreats. Some formations show unusually straight lines or geometric patterns that stand out against the natural landscape. While mainstream science explains these as the result of glacial movement and geological processes, their regularity has led some observers to question whether nature alone could create such precise formations. The debate between natural geological explanations and more speculative interpretations continues as more of these features become visible. The melting ice itself functions as a detailed climate archive. Air bubbles trapped in ancient ice layers contain samples of Earth's atmosphere from thousands of years ago. Scientists analyze these bubbles to understand historical climate patterns, tracking how carbon dioxide levels have changed over millennia and how these changes affected global temperatures. This ice core data provides crucial information about Earth's climate history and helps predict future climate trends based on past patterns. Subglacial lakes are becoming more accessible as the ice above them thins. These bodies of water, sealed beneath kilometers of ice for millions of years, may contain life forms completely unknown to science. The possibility of discovering microorganisms that have evolved in complete isolation raises questions about what other forms of life might exist in these extreme environments. The search for life in these dark, pressurized lakes offers insights into how organisms might survive in similar conditions on other planets. These emerging discoveries present ethical questions about preservation and protection. Newly exposed landscapes are vulnerable to contamination and damage from human activity. Scientists must balance their research objectives with the responsibility to protect these fragile environments that have been preserved under ice for millennia. The same melting that reveals these areas also threatens their preservation, creating complex challenges for conservation and study. The accelerating melt transforms our relationship with Antarctica from studying a static frozen archive to observing a dynamically changing landscape. Each season's retreat reveals new features and clues about the continent's past, while raising questions about its future. This ongoing revelation ensures that Antarctica will continue to surprise us with discoveries that challenge our understanding of Earth's history and the potential for life in extreme environments. What emerges from this melting process is a deeper understanding that Antarctica remains a place of active discovery rather than complete knowledge. The continent continues to reveal secrets that reshape scientific understanding while maintaining its essential mystery. As more ice melts and more landscape becomes accessible, the potential for groundbreaking discoveries grows, ensuring that Antarctica will remain a focal point for both scientific research and human curiosity about our planet's hidden histories. Beneath Antarctica's frozen surface lies a treasure chest of natural resources that could potentially reshape global energy markets and technological economies. The continent holds substantial deposits of coal, formed during its warmer prehistoric periods, when lush forests covered the land. Advanced surveying technology has revealed potential oil reserves that some estimates suggest could rival those of the Middle East, along with natural gas deposits comparable to major producing nations. The continent also contains valuable mineral resources including iron, copper, gold, uranium, and rare earth elements essential for modern technologies, ranging from smartphones to advanced military hardware. The Antarctic Treaty of 1959 and subsequent Madrid Protocol established a unique international framework that prohibits resource extraction for at least 50 years. Officially, this moratorium protects Antarctica's exceptionally fragile environment, where even minor disturbances can cause lasting ecological damage. The agreement creates the appearance of a continent dedicated solely to scientific research and environmental preservation. However, this prohibition also functions as a strategic pause that allows nations to conduct extensive resource mapping without triggering immediate competition or conflict. Nations are actively conducting geological surveys under the cover of scientific research, using advanced technology to assess the continent's resource potential. During the Cold War, both American and Soviet expeditions performed deep drilling operations to collect sediment samples for analysis. More recently, other nations have increased their Antarctic research presence, deploying sophisticated underground surveying equipment. These activities generate detailed geological data that remains largely confidential, providing strategic advantages for when the current moratorium eventually expires. The year 2048 looms as a significant milestone when the mining prohibition could potentially be revisited. This creates a scenario where nations are gathering intelligence and preparing for future resource access, while publicly maintaining commitment to environmental protection. The contrast between public declarations of preservation and private resource assessment activities suggests multiple layers of motivation behind Antarctic engagement. This dual approach allows countries to position themselves for potential future resource claims while avoiding current international controversy. The economic potential inherent in Antarctica's resources adds considerable weight to why information about the continent remains carefully controlled. Restricted zones, limited aerial observation, and selective data release serve both environmental protection and resource security interests. The same measures that protect fragile ecosystems also prevent independent verification of resource estimates and potential extraction activities. This controlled access creates conditions where significant discoveries could remain known only to certain nations or organizations. Environmental organizations express concern that when restrictions eventually ease, a rapid resource rush could cause irreversible damage to Antarctica's unique ecosystems. The extreme conditions that make the continent environmentally fragile also complicate any potential extraction efforts, requiring technology that doesn't yet exist for safe polar resource development. The tension between preservation values and resource demands reflects broader global conflicts between environmental protection and economic development priorities. This resource dimension transforms our understanding of why Antarctica remains so closely guarded and studied. The continent represents not just a scientific preserve or historical mystery, but a potential economic frontier of enormous significance. The combination of known resource, wealth, and current extraction prohibitions creates a frozen investment opportunity that nations are positioning themselves to eventually exploit. This economic reality ensures that Antarctica will remain a focus of geopolitical interest and potential conflict long after current moratoriums expire. The management of Antarctica's resources presents fundamental questions about how humanity will balance economic needs with environmental responsibility in extreme environments. The continent serves as a testing ground for whether international cooperation can prevail over national interests when valuable resources are at stake. The decisions made regarding Antarctica's frozen wealth may establish patterns for how we approach resource extraction in other challenging environments, including potential future operations in space or deep ocean locations. Antarctic science functions within a sophisticated system of information control that determines which discoveries reach public awareness. Research teams conducting work on the continent must operate through national programs that serve as gatekeepers for data release. These programs filter findings through multiple layers of review, sometimes restricting publication for extended periods or classifying certain information entirely. This structured approach to information management creates significant gaps between what scientists discover and what the public ultimately learns about Antarctica. The Antarctic Treaty Framework formally allows nations to maintain certain data as confidential for extended durations, ostensibly to protect scientific integrity or national security interests. This legal provision creates conditions where potentially groundbreaking discoveries might remain within limited circles for years before becoming public knowledge, if they ever do. The system effectively balances scientific openness with strategic considerations, though the exact criteria for restricting information remain unclear to outside observers. Scientists working in Antarctic research have reported that unusual findings sometimes receive special handling that delays their publication or limits their dissemination. Some researchers describe experiences where their data was collected by program administrators, with explanations about needing further verification or additional security review. These accounts suggest that the line between legitimate scientific caution and excessive secrecy often becomes blurred in the Antarctic context, creating an environment where significant discoveries might not achieve broader recognition. The controlled flow of scientific information contributes substantially to Antarctica's enduring mystery. When the public receives only filtered results from Antarctic research, it creates space for speculation about what might remain undisclosed. This selective transparency affects how we understand everything from geological formations to biological discoveries, as the full context of research findings may be withheld for various reasons. The pattern creates a paradox where Antarctica becomes both intensely studied and poorly understood by the general public. National interests significantly influence how scientific information gets managed within the Antarctic research community. Different countries maintain varying standards for data release, with some being more transparent than others about their findings. This patchwork approach to information sharing means that comprehensive understanding of Antarctic science requires navigating multiple national frameworks with different disclosure policies. The result is a fragmented body of knowledge that reflects political considerations as much as scientific ones. The scientific establishment itself thus becomes part of Antarctica's mystique through its management of information, by controlling what becomes public knowledge and what remains within specialized circles. Researchers and their institutions contribute to the continent's aura of concealed secrets. This dynamic creates a situation where the gap between expert understanding and public knowledge remains consistently wide, fueling ongoing speculation about what might truly be happening in Antarctica's remote research stations and field camps. Some researchers have shared accounts of unusual experiences or anomalous findings that never appear in official publications or public reports. These stories circulate within the tight-knit Antarctic science community, contributing to a sense that not everything discovered on the continent becomes part of the official scientific record. While these accounts remain anecdotal, their persistence suggests that the controlled information environment might be concealing more than just routine scientific data. The management of Antarctic scientific information ultimately reflects broader tensions between open research and strategic considerations. The same systems that protect sensitive data also create conditions where significant discoveries might remain hidden from public view. This controlled access to knowledge ensures that Antarctica maintains its status as a place where mystery persists despite intensive scientific investigation, leaving us to wonder what truly significant findings might remain concealed beneath layers of bureaucracy and selective disclosure. Even with modern satellite technology and advanced monitoring systems, Antarctica continues to generate unexplained incidents that maintain its mysterious reputation. The continent's extreme environment provides convenient explanations for many occurrences, yet a pattern of unusual events persists that suggests not everything is being fully disclosed or understood. These modern mysteries add another layer to Antarctica's complex relationship with human exploration and knowledge. Researchers and support staff have disappeared under circumstances that defy straightforward explanation. Some vanish during routine field operations where established safety protocols should prevent such outcomes. Search teams sometimes find no traces of the missing individuals, despite extensive efforts and modern tracking equipment. The official reports typically attribute these disappearances to environmental hazards like hidden crevasses, or sudden weather changes. Yet the complete lack of evidence in some cases leaves questions unanswered. Commercial and research pilots operating in Antarctic airspace occasionally report visual anomalies that don't appear on official navigation charts. Some describe unusual light formations that move in patterns inconsistent with known aircraft or natural phenomena. Others report seeing geographical features through breaks in cloud cover that don't match their flight coordinates or mapped landscapes. These accounts typically remain within aviation circles rather than entering official scientific literature. Restricted zones continue to limit access, even for experienced researchers with proper clearances. Certain areas require special permissions that go beyond routine environmental protection protocols. The reasons for these additional restrictions often involve vague references to sensitive research or safety concerns without specific details. This creates situations where scientists cannot access certain regions even for legitimate research purposes, fueling speculation about what might be happening in these off-limits areas. While most unusual incidents likely have rational explanations, their collective pattern sustains Antarctica's mysterious atmosphere. The continent's harsh conditions provide plausible cover stories for various occurrences, making it difficult to distinguish between natural events and potential anomalies. This ambiguity allows multiple interpretations to coexist within the Antarctic community, with some researchers sharing informal accounts that never appear in official documents. The tight-knit nature of the Antarctic research community facilitates the circulation of these stories through informal networks. Researchers and support staff exchange accounts of unusual experiences during the long winter months when stations operate in isolation. These stories gain traction through repetition, but rarely receive formal investigation or documentation. The combination of professional caution and institutional protocols means many intriguing accounts remain part of oral tradition rather than official record. What emerges from these modern mysteries is the realization that advanced technology has eliminated Antarctica's capacity for generating unanswered questions. The continent remains sufficiently remote and challenging that unusual events can still occur without clear explanations. The controlled flow of information and restricted access to certain areas means the full context of many incidents remains known only to limited circles. These ongoing enigmas demonstrate that despite centuries of exploration and technological advancement, Antarctica retains elements that resist complete understanding. The continent continues to operate as a place where the known and unknown coexist, where scientific explanation meets enduring mystery. This persistent quality ensures that Antarctica remains not just a physical location, but also a conceptual space where human knowledge encounters its limitations. Antarctica exists through three competing narratives that each claim to define its true nature. Science presents the continent as a natural laboratory for understanding Earth's climate, systems, and extreme ecosystems. Military interests view it as strategic territory with future resource value and positional advantage. Symbolic interpretations see Antarctica as a sacred or mystical place, holding deeper meaning beyond physical reality. These perspectives don't simply coexist, they actively conflict while controlling different aspects of information and access. The scientific narrative operates within carefully managed boundaries. Researchers study climate patterns, ice core samples, and subglacial biology, but their work flows through official channels that filter what reaches public awareness. Ground-penetrating radar data and detailed core sample analyses rarely appear in their complete form. Scientific discovery becomes intertwined with diplomatic considerations, where each piece of information carries political weight beyond its pure research value. The scientific establishment thus contributes to Antarctica's mystery through selective disclosure. Military interests maintain a quiet but persistent presence across the continent. Bases operate under the guise of research stations, while following protocols that suggest broader strategic purposes. Restricted flight paths and censored areas on maps create zones where normal transparency doesn't apply. Though international treaties formally prohibit weapons deployment, the geographical significance of Antarctica ensures it remains on the strategic radar of global powers. This military dimension operates in the background of scientific activities, influencing decisions about access and information control. Symbolic interpretations add another layer to how we understand Antarctica. Religious and philosophical perspectives view the continent as representing cosmic beginnings or endings. a place where ultimate mysteries might be preserved. This symbolic dimension transforms Antarctica from mere physical territory into conceptual space that reflects human, spiritual, and philosophical concerns. These interpretations sometimes fill gaps left by scientific and political narratives, offering alternative ways to comprehend the continent's significance. These competing narratives control different aspects of Antarctic knowledge, while preventing any single perspective from dominating completely. Science manages research data and discovery timelines. Military interests control physical access and security considerations. Symbolic interpretations influence cultural understanding and public perception. The result is a fragmented comprehension of Antarctica, where no individual or institution possesses the complete picture. The interaction between these narratives creates the conditions for ongoing mystery. Scientific discoveries might be limited for strategic reasons. Military activities remain concealed behind scientific cover stories. Symbolic interpretations thrive in the spaces where concrete information is lacking. This interplay ensures that Antarctica maintains its enigmatic quality despite extensive study and exploration. What emerges is a continent whose truth depends on which narrative currently holds sway over particular aspects. The same geographical feature might be viewed as a climate archive by scientists, a strategic location by military planners, and a sacred site by symbolic interpreters. This multidimensional quality explains why Antarctica resists simple categorization or complete understanding through any single lens. The control of information serves all three narratives simultaneously. Restricted data allows science to maintain research integrity, while permitting military considerations to operate discreetly. The resulting information gaps enable symbolic interpretations to flourish. This controlled transparency turns Antarctica into a place where power operates through managed revelation and selective concealment. This competition between narratives ensures that Antarctica remains perpetually intriguing. The continent functions as a cultural mirror, reflecting our collective desires for knowledge, security, and meaning. Scientific curiosity, strategic ambition, and spiritual seeking all project their expectations onto the ice, making Antarctica not just a physical place but a conceptual space where human aspirations and anxieties converge. The tension between these narratives will likely intensify as climate change reveals more of Antarctica's secrets and resources. The same melting ice that provides scientific opportunities also increases strategic value and symbolic significance. How these competing perspectives navigate this transformation will determine not only Antarctica's future, but also how humanity balances knowledge, power, and meaning in confronting the unknown. Antarctica serves as a mirror, reflecting humanity's deepest obsessions and anxieties throughout history. How we interpret its mysteries reveals our fundamental relationship with the unknown, and our changing attitudes toward exploration and discovery. The continent transforms into a canvas where scientific inquiry and imaginative speculation both find expression, each revealing different aspects of human nature. This reflective quality makes Antarctica more than just a physical place. It becomes a conceptual space where our collective hopes and fears take shape. Some view Antarctica as the planet's last untouched wilderness, a place requiring absolute protection from human exploitation. This perspective sees the continent as a sacred preserve that should remain beyond the reach of commercial interests and development. The extreme environment represents nature in its purest form, untouched by the compromises that have altered other regions. This vision positions Antarctica as a benchmark against which we measure our environmental values and conservation ethics. Others perceive Antarctica as a potential resource frontier that could address future energy and mineral needs. The continent's hidden wealth represents opportunity and economic potential, waiting to be unlocked when technology and circumstances permit. This viewpoint emphasizes practical considerations over preservation, seeing the frozen landscape as a solution to resource scarcity rather than a place to be left undisturbed. The tension between these perspectives reflects our broader struggle to balance environmental protection with economic development. For many, Antarctica represents the ultimate mystery, a place where ancient secrets might still lie hidden beneath the ice. This interpretation embraces the unknown aspects of the continent, seeing it as a repository of lost knowledge and unexplored possibilities. The limited access and controlled information flow fuel this perception, creating space for speculation about what might remain undiscovered. This perspective satisfies our innate curiosity about the unknown and our desire for exploration and discovery. These competing views demonstrate how Antarctica means different things to different people and cultures. The continent's symbolic weight shifts depending on whether one approaches it through scientific, economic, or philosophical lenses. This multiplicity of meanings ensures that Antarctica remains perpetually intriguing, as no single interpretation can fully capture its significance. The blank spaces on maps and in our knowledge invite us to project our hopes and anxieties about the future onto its icy surface. The continent's reflective quality extends to our concerns about climate change and environmental sustainability. Antarctica's melting ice serves as both warning and evidence of global transformations, making it a powerful symbol of planetary vulnerability. The emerging landscapes and revealed secrets force us to confront the consequences of human activity on a global scale. This aspect transforms Antarctica into a measure of our environmental responsibility and future survival prospects. Antarctica's enduring mystery ultimately reflects the limits of human knowledge and control. The continent remains sufficiently remote and challenging that it resists complete comprehension or domination. This resistance to full understanding serves as a reminder that some aspects of our world may always remain beyond our grasp. The controlled flow of information and restricted access create conditions where mystery can persist despite technological advancement. What emerges from this examination is the realization that Antarctica's greatest secret might be how it reflects the human condition back to us. The continent reveals our ambitions for conquest, our anxieties about the unknown, and our competing values regarding preservation and exploitation. This reflective quality ensures that Antarctica will continue to fascinate and challenge us, serving as both physical territory and conceptual space where we confront fundamental questions about our place in the world and our relationship with the natural environment. This multidimensional significance leads us to consider how Antarctica's meaning will evolve as climate change and technological advancement transform our ability to access and understand the continent. The same melting ice that reveals ancient landscapes also creates new opportunities for exploration and potential exploitation. How we navigate these changes will reflect our evolving values and priorities as a species facing an uncertain future. Despite centuries of exploration, Antarctica maintains its essential mystery as Earth's final frontier. The continent continues to resist complete understanding, preserving its status as the planet's last great secret. This persistence of the unknown suggests certain aspects may never be fully revealed or comprehended. Even with advancing technology and scientific methods, the sheer scale of the ice sheet ensures much of Antarctica remains unexplored at ground level. While satellites map the surface and radar penetrates deep ice, direct human observation remains limited to accessible coastal regions and established research corridors. The interior conceals landscapes no human has ever walked upon, preserving secrets beneath kilometers of glacial coverage. This physical inaccessibility creates natural barriers to comprehensive exploration that technology cannot completely overcome. Subglacial environments may contain ecosystems and geological features beyond current scientific imagination. The discovered lakes and river systems represent only the beginning of understanding what exists beneath the ice. These isolated environments have developed in complete darkness under extreme pressure for millions of years, potentially hosting life forms with unique biological adaptations. The full extent and diversity of these hidden worlds remain largely unknown, leaving room for extraordinary possibilities. Historical knowledge gaps create space for both legitimate questions and speculative theories. The absence of complete records from early exploration periods, combined with lost or destroyed documents, means we may never know everything that has been discovered about Antarctica. These informational voids allow multiple interpretations to coexist, from scientific hypotheses to more imaginative explanations. The continent's history contains enough uncertainty to sustain ongoing curiosity and investigation. The controlled flow of information ensures certain discoveries remain within limited circles. Scientific data undergoes multiple layers of review and filtering before reaching public awareness. Military and strategic considerations further restrict access to some findings, while diplomatic protocols govern what information gets shared internationally. This managed transparency means significant discoveries might never achieve broader recognition or understanding. Antarctica's extreme environment imposes severe limitations on human presence and thorough investigation. The harsh conditions, freezing temperatures, powerful winds, and extended darkness restrict fieldwork to brief summer seasons and specific locations. The logistical challenges of supporting research stations mean scientific activities must prioritize certain studies over others. These practical constraints ensure that comprehensive exploration remains an ongoing process rather than a completed achievement. The continent's enduring mystery serves as a reminder that some planetary secrets may remain forever beyond human reach. Antarctica represents the limits of our knowledge and control over the natural world. Its persistent unknowns challenge our assumptions about complete understanding and remind us that mystery can coexist with scientific advancement. This quality transforms Antarctica from mere physical territory into a conceptual space where human curiosity meets its boundaries. What emerges is the recognition that Antarctica's mystery forms an essential part of its significance. The unanswered questions and unexplored regions maintain the continent's power to inspire wonder and curiosity. This enduring quality ensures that Antarctica will continue to captivate our imagination and drive exploration, even as more of its secrets gradually become known. The balance between discovery and mystery defines our relationship with this unique continent. The persistence of Antarctic mysteries reflects broader truths about human knowledge and exploration. Some questions may remain unanswered, not because of conspiracy or concealment, but because of the fundamental challenges presented by extreme environments and the limits of our technology. Antarctica teaches us humility in the face of nature's scale and complexity, reminding us that complete understanding may be an ideal rather than an achievable goal. This final unknown leads us to reflect on what Antarctica ultimately represents for humanity, a place where scientific inquiry, strategic interest, and symbolic meaning converge. The continent's enduring mystery ensures it will continue to serve as a mirror, reflecting our changing attitudes toward exploration, discovery, and the limits of human knowledge. As the ice slowly reveals its secrets, it also preserves the essential wonder that has drawn explorers and thinkers for centuries. Antarctica remains Earth's final secret, where history, science, and enduring mystery intersect in profound and challenging ways. The continent asks us to reconsider everything we know about our planet's past and humanity's place within that story. As the ice slowly recedes, revealing hidden landscapes and ancient clues, we must approach with both curiosity and humility. Some questions may never be fully answered, some stories never entirely told. What we find and what we choose to preserve will reflect not just what lies beneath the ice, but who we are